Your number one area to split test is always going to be your headline or lead, right? So if you don't have a headline because you're VSL, then it's going to be that first 2 minutes. And those are the areas that you should almost be testing, not always constantly, but pretty regularly, because they have the biggest changes and the biggest impacts. I also say, when I say big swings, don't test one word. Okay, we said, if you did this, and we said excellent here, but now I'm going to try amazing. What is that? Who cares, man? Like, dude, change the entire thing. Do a whole new premise. If you're trying to test a lead, try a lead that's completely different and wouldn't even be recognizable to the other lead, because you're looking for big movement, big swings. If you could get a 20 to 30% lift when you're doing a big swing, that's really going to move the market. Welcome, affiliated listeners, to another Pillow Talk episode with Thomas and Kyle. And this one was supposed to be a holiday-themed episode. As you could tell, I am ready to share with you the Christmas wish of what we're going to be talking about today, is what we wish all of our clients knew about split testing. It's our Christmas gift to you and our wish from Santa out there. But not all of us got the memo in the production meeting for holiday garb. And I will tell you, this is an award-winning Christmas sweater. Yeah. I've won several ugly Christmas sweater contests.
Was it a child's costume? Yeah.
No, it's a old woman's cardigan. I'm a petite old woman at heart at all times.
Well, I just want to call out that this is slander, because there was no production meeting. The email invite to this only says internal podcasts with no other details. So yeah, bring out the duck as you. This is
well, first,
trying to paint me.
Dylan's awesome elf outfit says otherwise. In terms
also
of
a lie, which I can't negate. I can't prove a negative here. But
facts are completely relative to who you believe.
I have a delightful Christmas sweater I would have loved to wear.
I will admit, I thought of this morning, and it's only because I'm not going to be at the Christmas party this Friday.
Oh, you're not going tomorrow?
So I figured I need to sprinkle as much cheer as I can. Because they have the Mountain West Football Championship game with Boise State. And I care about sports more than everyone else here. So, but yeah, so I'm going to be going to that. But anyway, I wanted to bring some Christmas cheer as we talk.
I'm glad you took your opportunity for Christmas cheer to make me look bad. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I figured that was my Christmas wish, personally. Last thing I need to do, though, this is important for the camera guys. I did mention award-winning ugly sweater here. The thing that puts it over the top is this snowman.
Oh.
See on the back?
Yeah.
The solo surprise snowman is what gets him every time.
One little lonely snowman.
I got good junk in the trunk, too. So, they're already looking at the goods, and then they see the extra snowman. And it's the gold-winning kind of, I don't know. I forgot what I was going to say. I should have prepared something.
I'm not going to help you.
Yeah, it's the award-winning final cherry on top of the sundae, right? So, perfect. Well, anyway, obviously our Christmas we're talking about, Thomas, is what we wish all of our clients knew about split testing.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that comes up quite often. And we know that in reality, the biggest difference, I would say like literally the most simple difference between the business owners and marketers that do the best and those that seem to not consistently hit the best comes down to those who split test the most and the best. So
yeah.
That being said, I know we've had guests in the past that talk about split testing. There's a lot of conversations about it because it's important. But today, I think just between you and I, we get to just share what are some things that might be non-conventional, that might be just important for everyone to know about split testing to hopefully make you optimize your offers better, faster, or even sometimes just more creatively, right? There's a lot of, I think, creative ways that you can split test sometimes that even budget-free, they'll just set you up for a lot more success in life. Because I think the biggest thing with split testing is marketers might know a lot, but in reality, it's just educated guesses. And the only way to prove a guess is by testing it. So, but yeah, with that, man, when you think of, if your Christmas wish was telling all your clients could just magically, every single person that has created a ClickBank account could know some things about split testing, what would be the first thing you want to implant in their brain? I don't know why I chose such a very science fiction vitriol implanting ideas in their head.
Yeah,
but.
I know Kung Fu. I guess it's just split test everything. That's what it's kind of the joke that everyone just says all the time. Oh, split test it. Oh, it works. Split test it.
Yeah,
but it's true. But I guess the thing that comes to my mind is, I just wrote this down because it popped in my head. But operational split testing.
Oh,
right?
Interesting.
And I guess what I mean there is, people split test to varying degrees of nuance and varying degrees of technical prowess and whatnot. But a lot of times it falls to the wayside because something now works and now you're scaling and kind of like that muscle gets fatigued. And your copywriter might split test a certain way, or you might split test this thing a certain way, but you don't have it actually built into your process and systems and operations that this is what we do when we launch a new campaign. This is what we do when we launch a new ad. We run this many split tests at least. This is what we do when we put out a new headline. We run this many split tests at least, right? This is what we do when we launch a new VSL. Like this is how it's almost like this is how we split test.
Yeah.
Is baked into your operational structure of launching a new product or maintaining an existing product and offer out there and campaign in the marketplace.
Yeah, no, like building, and I think what we need to is like building a structure about when to test, what the next test is.
Like, could a new employee come into your company and slot into whatever role it is and actually execute the right split tests? Or where they have to just kind of know how to do that because they're good at that role, right? But
and then they probably would do it differently.
Exactly,
and then all of a sudden you're like, you don't understand how they're split testing, and now operations break, and you probably roll out a product that wasn't optimized enough, or you had a product that's going well that didn't maintain, and it could have lived so much longer. So, well, let me ask you then, in terms of that, the operational split testing, which I have to admit for a second, I thought you were going to we're going to try this process and see which one works better.
Super boring.
Yeah. I was like, all right, we do this email, or we decide to do it in a checklist. Yeah. It's like, somewhere in a COO was like, wait, this is something we could do. So when you think about some of the operations and the consistency of the things that you build, because I hear a lot, I think oftentimes if people are split testing, I know one I see is people will split test to a benchmark of performance. So it's not necessarily they count. They say, we're going to split test to this period, like this point, and then we know we're going to launch and further optimize after we get signals from affiliates. But it's internal to here and then launch afterwards. So we're just going to some operational things that you see or you really want people to start doing all the damn time. You swore earlier, so now that means I get to do it too.
We're just gonna make the duck.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I don't know what.
Can it be a goose for Christmas? Can we make it a goose sound?
We haven't tested the levels of curse words. I don't think either. It's like
I'm pretty sure the one you threw out was definitely.
Oh yeah, that's definitely gonna get. That definitely was quacked, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, does crap is that going to be quacked? That's okay.
That's bull.
Oh.
I don't know.
We lost the plot.
This way. It's because he's in an elf outfit.
No, we're split testing curse words. No. I mean, this shouldn't be a shock to anybody, right? But the biggest lever you have is the top of the funnel, which is either your subject line or your from address sometimes, right?
Well, hold fast. So are you talking like operationally? Because I was going to say that's another thing I want everyone to know is just where to split test first, priority of split test. Is that like a part of operation, or are there like general systematic things that you think people should do?
Oh, I see what you mean. Well, I mean, so the systematics are going to depend on what your company is, right? If you're a solopreneur, it's a little different. That's more just being rigid to your process and being committed to a process and actually documenting that. If you're a bigger company, it's getting your team aligned that, hey, when I do this task in my role, I'm going to operate this way. It's almost created. This is feeling fairly loose as I describe this, but what I mean here is like you're making split testing almost a core part of your business mantra. It's like, this is what we do as a core part of our business and as our marketing team. And right, really you could go as far as operations. Like, I don't want you to get rigid and this is the only way we split test. You should split test how you split test. But now we're getting fractals here. But
no, I get it. So I get it. And I just think, funny enough, when I was at a director of marketing, I built out like a similar process for the same thing. And we just had it where it was kind of the big part is like, similar benchmarks before we'd roll something out to affiliates. But the other thing is every existing offer, we had once a month where we do split test brainstorming. And then we'd prioritize the split tests and then we'd load them up. So when we had a split test running, there was already one in the queue behind it. And we'd keep a certain level of, we had to have 5 deep at all points in times. And it just removed that because I think one of the things operationally, and you mentioned it, like you split test, you get to a point and then you're like, oh, I'm just scaling now. And guess what? You've stopped optimizing. And then the offer starts dipping and like, well, I'll split test now, but you have to figure it out. And it just doesn't work very well.
Catch up now, right?
Yeah, but we built a structure, a frequency. So it's just, no one ever had to say, hey, should we test this? Or what do we test next? It was a constant process. And that for us is like, I wanted offers to be split tested all the time. If we were putting traffic to it, there should be a split test, because why not optimize? So I think it was more things like
And
that.
who was in that meeting? Like what, like for...
It was myself.
What kind of roles were in that meeting? I mean,
So it was basically just the marketing team.
Okay.
Because I needed our admin, I needed our creative team because they needed to understand what they were doing. And then that was the main meeting. Then we knew who we had to share that out to with like traffic partners and so on and so forth. It was the marketing team that would build the split test. And then most of the time it was just me coming up with split testing ideas. So
something.
But I think if we had in-house copywriters, it would be good to have them in too.
Yeah. What I love, like, right, with the rise of AI and all that, like a solopreneur can do this very collaboratively with a little GTP person you've made, right? And just like, hey, this come with help me brainstorm some split test ideas for this landing page or for this subject line, whatever it might be. You can do it by yourself very quickly, very efficiently, and kind of roll things out that way. Something that I can't remember who I heard this from, but they would regularly take their customer feedback and survey data and use that to influence their split testing, right? Because they're like, why did you buy this product?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's
what
a
made
really
you
good one.
purchase? Because we think we know why they bought it, because our marketing is great, because the hook and the headline and the mechanism were perfect. But they actually uncover that, actually there's a section of our audience that's buying this product for a reason we had no idea, right? So let's actually now incorporate this into a head-to-head split test. Was it going to be the control or not? Or now do you make a funnel built on that premise versus your default kind of thing?
Yeah.
So it's actually listening to your customers can actually...
It's shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. But I love that you said it, because I think oftentimes, I know two things. Like oftentimes, like we forget that we are not the ones that create the great copy, right? It's just, or whatever it is. Like you just have to know, your customers will give you the answers so many times. Just talk to the customers, talk to the people that are actually going to buy the product, find a way to communicate with them. It's much better than talking to other marketers about marketing. It's almost like you get so far removed. It's like you get a Lucille Blue thinking that a banana is $10, right? What is it, $10? I will say that the other thing, if you're a solopreneur and you're looking for split testing, the other thing you could do is, it's Christmas season. Let's share the love. Find a peer, somebody else that either has a similar product, they might have a different product. I think the idea of bouncing ideas, though, when you're coming up with split testing ideas,
what can be great
really
is different vertical or different products serving the same audience.
Yeah,
right?
that's a really good one.
Yeah, so you don't feel like you have to share like competitive intel with a competitor or something, but no, we're serving a similar audience, similar demographic, similar person. What's been working, what's not. Yeah.
But I think getting in practice of bouncing those ideas off and then building an organizational structure is really, really smart. So now I definitely want to go back, because this is something that I see a lot of people miss out on when they're doing split testing. I wish they would know it. And you talked about before of like, what to split test and when.
Oh, dude, you should totally split test as much as possible upsell 3.
Yeah, upsell 3.
Upsell 3.
Button color.
Yeah, button color and upsell 3.
I've done 25 different colors of my button. Yeah.
No, obviously sarcasm. But it's sarcasm, but it's not. I see a lot of people focusing on their upsell funnel, which they should, right? Not saying you shouldn't, but they'll be split testing upsell 2 and 3 and price points in there, which, yes, do that. But it's like, when's the last time you split tested your subject line on your email swipes? When's the last time you split test the ad creative, right? That's running, if you are running your own ads or things like that. Like that's going to be a much bigger lever to pull than upsell 2. Right?
Yeah.
Unless your offer is just not working at all and upsell 2 happens to be that data point. But I think that's where it's understanding the actual analytics of your funnel and your traffic channel, right? It's like, where is that lever to pull now?
Yeah.
Because it's going to be changing as your campaign changes.
Well, and I think one of the things to remember too, we think of like upsells, is the cost of testing. And not everyone even sees you're beyond upsell 1. So like, think about that. Like, how many more impressions do you need to get? How much more do you need to spend just to get substantive data? Because they might not even see it. And if you get to 3, 1, if that's the difference between your offer succeeding or not is what your performance is in upsell 3, you have bigger problems in your offer, because that is going to be the most fragile offer to ever exist if upsell 3 is making a difference. These are gravy. These are cherries. These are things you test on a scaled offer to give your extra minor percentages, because you have enough traffic.
Incremental gains, right?
Yeah, you're like, hey, this is doing pretty well here. So maybe we start split testing the back end, especially if it's on affiliate traffic, because you're very unlikely to drastically decrease performance in what you're doing in those latter ones. But if you get a couple gains here, learn something, maybe you could apply it over to other stuff, so on and so forth. But it's just always very expensive. And I think the other thing is like unless you have massive amounts of data, huge amounts of data, realistically, statistical significance is like really hard for most clients to hit based on based on the standard definition. We are not Google, right? You can't
that's the thing.
send that kind of volume.
Like, oh, you need statistical significance. It's like even people who say that in our industry who are big volume, quote unquote, usually don't have enough data to be true statistical significance.
Yeah.
Like it's a surprising amount of volume you need for that to be actually statistically significant. So really it's just like informing your gut check a little better, right?
Essentially. Yeah. And so, but one of the things, and I can't remember who, it might have been Ben Teal. I can't remember. It might have been Jeremy Reeves. I'm just dropping names of people that I remember talking to about this. But that it says, I think it might have been Jeremy Reeves. And he says, like, take the biggest swing you can.
Yeah.
Like, look where you're getting big swings when you're testing, especially if you're early on. But even if you have an offer that's scaling, go do an entirely
so what are some
lead.
of those big swings?
Yeah. Well, so I think big swings, when you think of big swings, it's going to be the areas that get the most attention and the biggest inflection points of selling. So your number one area to split test is always going to be your headline or lead, right? So if you don't have a headline because you're VSL, then it's going to be that first 2 minutes. And those are the areas that you should almost be testing, not always constantly, but pretty regularly, because they have the biggest changes and the biggest impacts. I also say, when I say big swings, don't test one word. Okay, we said, if you did this, and we said excellent here, but now I'm going to try amazing. What is that? Who cares, man? Like, change the entire thing. Do a whole new premise. If you're trying to test a lead, try a lead that's completely different and wouldn't even be recognizable to the other lead, because you're looking for big movement, big swings. If you could get a 20 to 30% lift when you're doing a big swing, that's really going to move the market.
I do want to call out like a nuance there, because right, you do big swings like that when you're trying to get something to work, right?
Yes, but honestly, not all the time. Now, I change the way I do a big swing on a scaled offer, not towards affiliates. But do you think I'm not going to get some in-house traffic, do another big swing?
Yeah, but right, you're going to test on a smaller subject of data,
yes,
right? And that's, now we're getting into some nuances of split testing, right? You're not going to take, we're going to do a 50-50 split test on our main headline that's producing profitable ROAS at scale.
Not unless you really hate affiliates. You just really want to piss them
your
all
own traffic,
off.
right? You don't want to like just kill your own campaign that's been working really well. So you're going to take a subset of your traffic and test those big things. But it is where you're going to start to massage and do some smaller split tests, right? It's either, maybe it is a button color you're testing now. Maybe it is upsell 1 and price points and upsell 2 and things like that. Because now you're trying to get those incremental gains once you're at quote unquote scale, whatever that means for you. So I think that's it's like you see people taking really big swings sometimes because they've heard take big swings. It's like, no, you got something working now. Yeah. Like,
yes, you say you take big swings with measure, right? Yeah. And I would tell you, if you have something working with affiliates, be very careful about testing on those affiliate traffic. And if you are going to split test on affiliate traffic,
which I think you should, right? I think a lot of people are like, oh, we can't test this. Affiliates are running traffic at it. No, it's like you need to keep that humming. But just make the test on 10% of it.
Yes.
Right? Not
or
50.
Go to an affiliate that might represent a large amount of traffic and talk to them about how they would like you to do testing, right? Maybe it's something they could work out. Maybe it's you get a deal where you say, hey, you'll get the winning split test first because you're allowing to test and give us that significance faster. But again, they might not want a big swing all the time. But so I was going to say, so those big swing areas that your headline or lead are going to be number one, because that's ultimately, if you're failing there, it doesn't matter what you do well anywhere else, because you're not getting enough people to even pay attention. So you might throw the best party in the world for 5 people, but those 5 people aren't enough to really create a great party, right? So, so always it's your lead and your headline first. The next area where I would always focus on, I think this is the area where people miss the most in copy. And I know it's shocking because we like to think about it, but it's in your mechanism. Start training and testing your mechanism. And this is an area where it can be challenging. I think this is one of the areas where you go from great copywriters to good copywriters is in your mechanism. A lot of good and great copywriters write great leads, but mechanisms are challenging.
Yeah, I feel like the junior to good copywriters can get in love with the mechanism they've made sometimes, right? And they're not so much testing against it. They're more trying to make that mechanism work versus testing whole, 4 different mechanisms.
Yes, really, because it's one of those things that's And one of the things with mechanisms, if you get it to
yeah.
work, it's
I think people probably know what we're talking
distills it
about,
down.
but just for
Oh.
fun, yeah. What do you mean by a mechanism? Yeah.
so well, you have like unique problem and then unique solution mechanism. But ultimately, the mechanism is your lead is going to stoke the problem. It's going to create the issue. It's going to connect with the consumer, right? At the end of the day, I feel and I see with them. The mechanism is going to solve the pain, but it has to make sense to the consumer. So it has to be it has to be new, and it has to be easy for them to understand. And most importantly, and this is one thing where I'll kind of circle back to this, is why more copywriters and marketers should spend time with human beings and not other copywriters and marketers. But if you spend time with the main demographic of the people that buy a lot of supplements in the direct response world, they're not 45, they are 70 and 75. And if I don't know how many 75 and 80-year-old people you hang out with, hopefully not too many. But I've spent time with them. And I'll tell you what,
ageist.
they love, one of the things they love about the products we sell is the story and the ability to replicate a mechanism. Because everyone that they hang around probably has a lot of ailments when you're in your 70s. And there's two things that seem to come up around every single hangout with old people: what ailments and how they're solving them, and who has recently died that they all mutually know. And I know this is depressing and it's weird,
Merry
but it's just
Christmas.
like when you get to a certain
Happy
age, you're like, well, they died soon. Oh yeah, I remember Ted. And like, so it's a weird thing. So, but one of the things why this is so important is why the mechanism matters is they want to share and talk about the story. So if they could easily replicate what that mechanism is and explain it, they have social value and equity in the relationship, right?
Man,
and
I
if
have
I
no idea where you're going with this. For a second there. It's like, wow, how's this going to come back?
Well, because they're talking about their ailments. So if they talk about how their foot hurts, and hey, did you hear
I use this
about
rice
this great
hack,
product? Yes, this rice hack.
I use an ice hack.
Yeah, well, that's crazy. Let's share. But and like I watched this multiple times where like they would swap these stories of our offers. Like the weird thing was like hearing a ClickBank product like in the wild felt bizarre. It was a nootropic kind of offer or a memory offer. But again, like there was social equity in sharing that story. So the mechanism has to be easy to understand, not only for them to logically get it, but also to easily repeat it and explain it to others. Even sometimes, because if you're buying a product, what's one of the number one risks that you have with the product?
That I have with a product?
Well, just think any consumer. You buy and you spent, let's say you spent $250 on a product.
It's like I'm going to feel taken advantage of, that it's not going to work, that it's, that I'm gonna
And why do you
feel-
not want to be taken advantage
I'm gonna
of?
feel
I want you to
dumb.
give more. Yeah, you're going to feel dumb, but who are you going to feel dumb to? Who's the risk of who's going to think you're stupid if you made a bad purchase?
Myself?
No, other people, right? Someone else is going to think you're stupid.
Yeah. Well,
And
yeah.
so at the end of the day, like
That shame, right? That like,
yeah, but the shame of somebody else. And one of the reasons why that matters is the mechanism. If I could repeat this and it sounds compelling, I'm less likely to look stupid when I tell people about the $200 I spent on XYZ or whatever it might be. So that's the other reason I think the mechanisms are important, not only for storytelling, but you have to remember a simple mechanism is easy to understand and easy for me to explain to somebody else so I don't look stupid and I don't regret my purchase.
I like because we always hear that story sells, right? And stories sell. We hear that with any traditional branding or movies, right? Whatever it is, including long form VSL or TSL, obviously. But I think you're hitting a great point where it's like humans are communal storytellers in their very nature. And I think I've never heard it phrased that way. So I'm glad you shared that because it's like, oh yeah, if it is easy to grok, easy to understand, and easy to pass along, that just helps someone, now that they understand it intuitively and are more likely to buy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And it can be challenging. It's an area to spend a lot of time. And then I'd say the last big lever area to look at is your close. And with closing, I think the language is pretty formulaic. Like it's really like if you looked at a close over every offer of ClickBank over the last 10 to 15 years, they would all almost look exactly the same, written form and everything. So there's definitely a pattern to buying. But this is where you get into your buttons, you get your images, you start split testing. How are you
value
introducing
stack
the product?
things. Yeah, it's like
How are you stacking your bonuses, which are big ones to split
Well,
test?
it's even
and
like right,
close?
it's even like simple stuff like have your more expensive option first. If you have multi-option, right? Have your more expensive one first because on mobile you'll see it first, and people might just take it then instead of scrolling down to your first bottle. So it's like little things like that you might not even be aware of. Yeah, free shipping versus not, right? It's like all these little things you start to kind of tweak against. Yeah,
exactly. And so it's close. Then you go to order form. Probably next would be the area, right? Unless you saw something where you had great clicks and everything was dropping off.
that's another place where I see people fixate on order form. right? Order form is very important. Don't get me wrong, right? That's the only thing we quote unquote control as ClickBank is the order form. So we put a lot of focus and attention on that split testing. But the issue with the order form split testing is that if you're sending bad traffic to it, quote unquote, which doesn't mean bad traffic, it means that they weren't ready to buy yet potentially, your order form conversion rate might look terrible, and you start focusing on that. It was really your close, right? Or it was the hook, or it was the lead that was sending bad intention traffic to it. And so it's like that's where you'll get bigger lifts still focusing on that piece of it than fixing order form.
Yeah. Well, and especially I should say if you're doing long form copy. Now, if you have a very low ticket offer, you might, depending on how you structure it. Like, again, this is where testing get really, really complicated because, like, it's offer contingent, right? Because we know there's free plus shipping that uses long form copy, but say it's a very impulse buy.
Yeah.
Now your order form testing is actually probably prioritized over your mechanism or your close because those are absent in that kind of a funnel. But in the other ones, they matter so much more that by the time they hit the order form, you're nudging. And if anything, just not losing the sales, what your order form represents. So if you have a low order form conversion rate, it's much more likely you're failing on your sales page, like you said, than you're doing anything on the order form. There's not enough factors in there.
I was onboarding a client years ago, and they tested on ClickBank, sent a big email or sent them traffic. Like, oh, the ClickBank order form sucked. I was like, what? I was like, how? Like we made this. It looks this like, what's wrong with it? And it was a very simple issue. Their off ClickBank sales page had a learn more button. That's the call to action. And then their order form off of ClickBank had a VSL, another VSL, had tons of testimonials, all these things. Their ClickBank order form was fairly basic. It was branded, but it's fairly basic.
Yeah.
And they kept the learn more button on. So people were clicking learn more and just seeing now a buy page versus more information and where the actual close was.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, your close is on your order form off ClickBank. We need to move this close onto your sales page or into a 2-steps kind of format and then get them to the conversion point. So it's like making sure you're actually, this is kind of leading to a point I wanted to make, which is like data parity.
Yeah.
Right? And we see a lot of
Great
things
transition, Thomas.
Oh,
Applaud.
thanks.
Almost could earn you a Christmas sweater. That's how good it is. So, all right, so data parity.
Well, just making sure that you understand what the software you're using is actually doing and actually telling you. And if you start looking at different platforms and using that to compare apples and oranges, you're going to have a really weird tasting juice at the end, right? You're not really going to know what you're actually getting. If you're going, oh, this platform says it converted at X, and this platform over here I was testing on is converting at Y, you don't actually know, unless you're really deep into both of those companies' analytics, how they're even measuring that stat they're giving you, right? Is one looking at uniques? Is one looking at session level, right? Well, how are they actually telling you what a conversion is, what a click is? Like, how is that segmented out? So I see affiliates, especially affiliates, when they're split testing different offers or different networks, things like that, stumble that a lot where they focus on that piece. I go, whoa, like, let's back out real quick. What's your earning per click on your ad campaign on this? Right? Like, what's the actual result of this? Not just like the granular conversion rate aspect of it, because that could be getting reported differently for now testing across different aspects.
Yeah. No, I think good. And funny enough, this is literally before I worked at ClickBank. We were the company that our whole pitch was data normalization. That was the main thing that we did because, and it was for finance stuff, but they had every different bank had a different way of showing, representing, or saying what data was.
Yes.
And so they had to hire a staff of people that would basically just reconcile the data all to be read in one way. Not awesome, right? So no, data normalization is huge. And a lot of people miss on it all the time because it's just, you can't, like you said, you can't be measuring completely different things. You can't be looking at steak and thinking you're comparing to oranges, as you said, because that would make a weird juice. I don't know about apples and oranges. I might be all about that juice, you know. But
version of Pog,
but I'm not so sure about the celery steak juice. That's probably not going to lean in the popularity section. So, but yeah, normalizing that data is so huge. And so oftentimes just when you are split testing, not only understanding that you're isolating the variant, which if it's platform, make sure everything else is the same, meaning that you have to read the same
this is what
data.
Patrick was talking so much about, right? Yeah. So I don't know which episode it is off the top of my head, but we did with Patrick
Styles episode. We have freeze-dried guacamole. It's actually one of the best episodes. I think if we had to do a rank of episodes we love the most this year, that would be the one. We might need to do that in January. We should do episodes we love the most this year. Anyway, sorry, this is, I'm going behind the scenes. Sorry. But yeah, it's isolating the variant is so key and so important. But oftentimes a big piece of that is normalizing your data. So if you're using, like you said, if you're a Facebook media buyer, using a media buyer, do not look at your platform tools. Look at Facebook, right? Measure those campaigns as realistically together. Make sure you've structured them the exact same way, like your last client. Like you You cannot have a completely different funnel and a funnel process. I'm like, why isn't this working? It seems to be different. Well, they're not the same things. Like you have to isolate the variant as much as possible. And that is really, really key. I know some people like to do multivariant testing. Unless you have Google's level of traffic quality, multivariant testing is so high risk because you need so much data to really understand that. Yeah. So we're going to look. So just always isolate that variant, normalize your data, and actually understand what you're reading. That is a huge, huge piece that more people need to do. So I want to go a different route on testing.
Yeah.
Because this is actually, I think, testing where I see so many people miss. And oftentimes it's because, we kind of talked about before, we miss the actual person we're selling to. We get a lot of split testing on platform, marketing this.
It's all data and percentages and click-through rates. Yeah.
Yeah, and we forget that there's actually human beings on the other side of it. And I think it was an unreleased podcast that we had with Perry Belcher where he talks about product creation, or this might have been a conversation with him. I can't remember. It always stood out to me. He said, if you have not actually sold this product, you have not sold the product, like, what are you even doing? So if you have an idea and you have a product, physically go out and sell it in person. He's like, if you could do that and you could have success selling in person, then start to make it online. And he brought up this amazing example of this guy that one time had, he wanted to sell high quality ramen, like the best instant ramen you can imagine. And so it came out to like $11 or $12 at the time, which probably would be more with inflation, probably be like $100. I don't know, but
it's like
that tracks, right? That seems math, right?
No, it's more than 10x the price of typical ramen. Yeah,
but it's still like way high priced on ramen. He's like, oh, it's like the best ramen, and he's like, well, I'm really struggling to sell it. And Perry told this guy, he's like, have you actually tried to sell this to anybody? He's like, well, no. He's like, okay, the guy had spent like $300,000 in product development, right, creating this beautiful, amazing tasting ramen. Told the guy to like go out and actually sell it. Could not sell it to anybody in person at a grocery store. Now, I think the reason we could all deduce is why is like, who's buying ramen when like luxury ramen? Like I'm buying ramen because luxury evades me. It's something, it's all about value and discount. It's a sacrifice purchase. It literally directly correlates as the economy goes down, ramen sales go up, right? That's not a luxury premium item. And why create premium trash at the end of the day? So it was a total market misfit, but this individual was passionate about it. They might've been one of the very few buyers of this product, but there wasn't enough to sustain it. They never actually asked and found out. And this is not market research that people spend millions of dollars on. Just go out to where you think is closest to you that they're actual buyers and see if they'll buy the product. Explain it to them. This could be the exact same if you're trying to do a split test on different websites in a big swing. If you are targeting, say, older women, go to like a Starbucks or a GNC or a juice place if you want to do a health offer and offer, hey, I'll buy you your order. If you could just look at these two things and answer a couple questions for me. It is one of the most impactful, and I know there's flaws and all this stuff, but to watch people's expressions, to ask them questions face to face, you will learn so much more than you ever could by trying to run split tests and even thousands of dollars through Facebook in terms of what you'll actually need to know. This is a more early thing. I wouldn't necessarily do this like, hey, which button color responds better to you? But like you want, when you're looking at those big swings early on, this could save you from making an offer that totally dives if you did it more consistently. Very few marketers do that though.
No, I mean, most people go to a marketplace somewhere like ClickBank and what's working? I will do an offer like that, right? And then they can't get it to work for whatever reason or it doesn't work as well because they probably didn't do any of that kind of thing, but they also don't know what traffic's hitting that offer. They don't know what affiliates are running that traffic. They don't know which buyers are actually buying that. They just saw the rice hack and wanted to make an ice hack, and now we're here.
Yeah. Well, and if you think like at the end of the day, what you're describing is essentially how in Alien Resurrection all the Ripleys turn out, like the failed clones of Ripleys. Like not all of them are going to be perfect, but again, you could at least improve that or come up with an innovative idea, right? You want to try something new and exciting, great. Test it out on real human beings first. Try and see if anyone will actually buy your product face to face, and if they won't, then that's probably not the idea to go with. So move again. But that's where you could get some big movers and big shakers. And it was actually, I think his name's John McDonald that came up with this, that told me about this idea. He does e-commerce optimization. So we're trying to get plugs for any ideas that I got from other folks when I could remember them.
Yeah, most of these are from other people that I'm just not good at remembering names. So.
And one other one I wanted to mention, just as another interesting hack. This is actually, I'm pretty sure this was Ian Stanley that gave this idea to copy the first copy accelerator. So trying to give you credit, Ian. If it's not you, take credit anyway because it's fine. But is when you survey, Because we actually, as direct marketer, I did surveys to test subject lines all the time. But what I would do is, hey, I'd say, we're looking to write new blog articles. Would you take a survey to tell us which one would be the most interesting to you? So then the headlines are just the blog titles of content. Like, what would you be interested in, right? But one of the ideas is that's expensive, right? If you're trying to monetize your email and you get nothing back. So Ian said, well, we put a coupon code at the bottom as a thank you for filling out the survey. Not beforehand, because you don't want to create a bias in terms of the response. You really want people that are interested.
They didn't know they're getting a coupon.
Yeah, so then it's a surprise thing. So guess what? We made money off all of our surveys. They were actually very profitable as you drive it back to your e-commerce
It's like
store.
what Ed Scow would talk about, right? When they were in their email list, right? They do a lot of like content-heavy emails, not so much sales, but they're all tied to sales at the back end. But they also use that to see what's trending, right? What's actually getting more open rates, because that's the first sign of interest.
Yeah.
Right. So his whole, I think it was baking soda. He leaned down hard, right? With
freaking baking soda.
Yeah.
Man.
So right, like they realized that baking soda, for whatever reason, got a lot of engagement from people as they used it. So they were like, okay, we can build offers around this. We can actually use this as our leads for our actual monetized sales pages or actual email drops that we're going to do, not just the content plays. So it's like if you treat your email list not just as a cash cow, but as a way to serve value, you can actually glean a lot of insight from what people are resonating with from your quote unquote non-revenue generating email, which, as we know, can still generate revenue and should.
Yep.
But then, okay, how do you take that now and then bring it to your ad headline, bring it to your lead, bring it to the hook?
Yeah, no. One other caveat I will put to that, because that's great. Like, I love that. And I think it's so powerful when you could do that, because it just, again, you're getting pure data to inform that, which is so powerful. And it's data you already have. It serves two purposes. Why not capitalize on it? One thing I will say with survey data, and this is why Ed's is great with the content they see, because it's pure clicks. It's absent of opinion or how we see self. When you're asking opinion data, there are certain things that people will say that they don't want to read, but then when you put it in front of them, they 100% will read it. Areas where you see that, one of the big ones is anything around poop. So I could tell you, if we put poop in subject lines, people would click like crazy. They love talking about poop. But if you ask them if they like talking about it, they will say no. So, and I tell you consistently, I put a poop subject line in our survey stuff, always the last selection. I don't want to read about that. That's because you don't want people to know that you'd want to read about that. Then we put that, and guess what? It always goes, we're still testing it. Like every time it's like, oh, we'll test it anyway. And guess what? It would always never perform last.
So, I mean, how many people, no one, it's like people outside the DR space, no one watches a 40-minute VSL. No one reads a X thousand word sales letter. It's like, well, the sales data
exactly
says
so
otherwise. Yeah.
So always remember that knowing your audience, knowing your subject, there might be stuff that the dollars will matter more than the opinions, but so just be aware of that. But I just want to put that one. Really, I just want to talk about poop. If I could talk about some poop for a second.
I knew that's what you were doing.
I think I've said it like 6 times. So poop, poop, poop. Ah, there we go. And I got to 10. Just feels better that way. Anyway, so I know we're getting close on time, and this sweater, well, magnificent, is a little bit itchy. So what's another? Let's try and give one more wish before we go for each of us.
Well, you hit on something I wanted to circle back to, which is like if you're working with a lot of affiliates, especially media buyer affiliates, like how you actually split test with them is where you can see a lot of gains, and not just for your overall offer performance, but for their performance, right? So that's where I really look at how can you go deeper with the affiliates you're working with. If you've got someone driving a certain number of sales or starting to scale with you, what can you do with them to go a lot further? And some examples of this would be like standing up unique domain for them to run traffic to, right? And not so much, that might be for Facebook compliance, sure, but it could also be so that you're going to give them unique split tests on that page that no one else gets, right? Maybe it's a buy button pops at a certain time on that page that uncovers a X% increase in conversions. Well, you're going to lock that in for that affiliate who keeps running that kind of scale until it trends down, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to roll that out to everyone else. You're going to protect that big affiliate who's doing that. So I think that's where you can start to get creative with it. And then other things that I just want to hit on before we move on from anything is just like, as you get to a certain level of scale, your split testing can get a lot more nuanced, and those incremental gains can really add up. So what I mean there is, if you're running, say, from Facebook, your Facebook lander should look a lot different than your TikTok or Pinterest or whatever other lander. Because ideally, if you're running volume on all these places or even across these places, your split testing starts to change the messaging from that traffic source.
Yeah.
Right? And same with, is it on mobile or desktop? That's a really obvious one. But now, is it male or female? Is it aged based? Like what creatives are driving traffic to this? Does that look different?
Yeah. What pain point, right?
Yeah, what pain point? So that's where it's, if you start to look at not just this is my landing page, but this is my Facebook landing page, this is my email landing page, this is my Google retargeted landing page, right? All these things are starting to look very different over time because you're going to be doing incremental split tests against them from those unique traffic sources and from those unique audiences.
Yeah. No, I don't know why this is such a name drop heavy podcast for me, but Ron Lynch, makes me think of Ron Lynch and his GoPro thing. He talked about we had a core thing, but then they built ad campaigns for each specific individual, right? Because the surfer has a very different desire for what the benefits of a GoPro could be versus the extreme mountain biker, right? Totally different things.
Or the vlogger.
Yeah, or the vlogger, right? Or the practical prankster.
It's like kind of like the customer service, like, why'd you buy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Figuring out why people bought and tailoring it to that. And then, Robbie Amaro is kind of who I'm stealing this piece from. He's a student of Ron Lynch's over the years. We've done a podcast with Robbie.
Was that Platinum too? You did it with Robbie?
It was a TNC. Is it one of the TNCs?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
The in-person one, yeah.
Back when TNC was a thing.
Yeah, and there's
RP, pour one out. I don't know the things. Is that a thing? People dead people? I don't know.
some other just quick hacks I'd suggest if people are just like, oh, I just want to try something different. It's like, I would really think about testing where you put testimonials.
Yeah.
Or types.
Why's that?
We've seen some lifts when someone includes them higher up, for example, right? So people sometimes bury them closer to the close. It's like, oh, this is where we're talking about a product now, right? But if you move it up higher, it doesn't have to be like, this product changed my life, right? And you don't have to lead that there's a product or anything even then. The testimonial might be more around, and of course, these need to be true testimonials, FTC.
They also have to be related to the actual customer experience, the average customer experience, not
all
the
that
outliers.
kind of blah, blah, blah. All that's good stuff.
There you go, government. We're doing what you want.
But if you can move something up higher, especially for like a TSL, right? You're showing that other people have had success here. You're kind of overcoming that fear that I'm going to be silly if I believe in this method that unlocked this thing, right? So it's like if your mechanism's up top, maybe secondary headline or whatever. If the next thing is potentially a version of a testimonial, it's like, wow, I can't believe this. This really worked for me. It can be fairly generic or something like that. Like that can help people get engaged. Like, oh, people are resonating with this. And as you sprinkle those throughout, you don't have to say them all for the close.
Yeah.
But it kind of builds that trust factor early on. And it does tease that there's a product without saying it. So you're not as shocked when the product shows up.
Well, and I think one of the things that I'm a big fan of moving testimonials multiple. I think you should have at least 3 sections of testimonials in any copy. But like the lead are the ones that's future casting, right? So at the end of the day, we highlight and stoke a pain. And then before we even explain why, you should always been saying, but don't worry, because we have the solution. In fact, don't take our word for it. Let's just hear all the people that are just like you and what they're saying now about what their life's like, right? So that future casting testimonial is so powerful in that, like, if we even think about emotionally as human beings, when you're in a state of pain, disarray, interest, whatever it might be, some sort of emotional state, we don't like to be alone in our emotions, right? Like immediately we like to not feel insane and crazy. I think most people, right? So when you throw those testimonies in there, what you're doing is validating you're validating the feelings, making them not feel alone, but then moving them already into hope, right? Because I'm in pain, I'm miserable, and guess what? Here's all these other people that were in pain and misery, and now they're not. So you're taking the emotion, making them not feel alone, and then moving them into hope. And then you could go back and spend some time storytelling, blah, blah, blah. And then I think the next time is after you reveal the product, you need to have those testimonials again. Now these are more detailed. You might spend more time with them. And then I think, again, probably in your FAQs or maybe after the actual CTA button, I'd be putting testimonials in there again, especially if you have like a TSL or you have the ability to do live reviews at that point in time. Post-close, that's really fantastic. And make those live reviews, like include bad reviews in your page. I know some people are like, I would never do that. No, you need to. Because
I look for them now. I look for the 4-star reviews.
Yeah.
For my own personal buying. Yeah.
I always reverse order and do 1 to 3 because I want to know what people hate about the product.
Yeah.
Like what, and honestly, mainly just because like, I'll tell you if like,
valid.
that's what they hate. Like that's
Yeah.
fine. I could expect what the worst experience is going to be.
Well, oftentimes, right? Because it's like, oh, the packaging was bent or something. It's like, okay, well, yeah. So it's like,
This is probably going to sound mean and insulting, but I call it kind of the dumb check. Like, do these seem like reasonable people to hate this product or just idiots? Because we all know there's just going to be like, okay, like we've seen those products like it came as pills. And I'm like, well, I don't even know what to do with this person. Like, you know, so but if you see those reviews, it fills you with confidence. So, but stripping it away, if I went to product and there was no negative reviews, nothing but 5 stars, I would distrust everything.
Yeah.
And particularly because buyer behavior is so star related with everything we use and reviews and so on and so forth. So, but no, I agree with you. I love the idea of moving testimonials. And I think that even echoes one of the biggest things. And this is, again, like one of these copy staples that I think sometimes have been lost to the annals of time, right? Is like if it works later in your copy, move it up.
Yeah.
Right? If you see people reference, oh, I love this part, make that happen faster, right? If it's good, do it more, right? Or do it sooner. And this is even a big software concept. Joe Stolte was talking about this at a talk. Is that like, I think it was like, as soon as you could get value, accelerate points to value. And like Facebook was kind of famous for this, that they knew if they could get you to add 7 friends, to have 7 friends on Facebook, they had you for life. So what do you think they did? They structured everything in their business to get people to get 7 freaking friends on Facebook, like as much as they could. Because once they had that point, they just knew the value was there and you would never leave. Right. And so it's the same thing in your product. If in the copy, this is a really impactful section that brings value to the reader and consumer, don't make it be all the way down at the 40th minute of your VSL.
Hide
make it be
yeah.
within the first 2, the first 5. You know, it has to be reasonable, but we really want to accelerate that stuff up. So I'm going to do one last little I think it's just a fun way to test or way to think about it. I think what I want you guys to do is we didn't talk about like the core, here's a set of split test, A, B, 1, 2, blah, blah, blah. Because where there's value in that, I think there's lots of great places to go. We have some past episodes that talk about this. But what I think is important when we talk about advanced split testing, it's thinking outside the general ways that you do it, right? How could you get creative? How could you get scrappy? How could you use the resources you have? So this is a recent one. I find this really great, and it's a really great way to split test either if you're going into a new market or maybe a lot of people don't have a large email list or their email list is just buyers of the product. They're like, I'd like to get more email affiliates. Well, guess what? Email swipes and email creatives are not easy to get the win. Yeah. It takes a lot of testing. And if you don't have like non-buyers or a lead list that you could test these out to, you're never going to get great results. So how do you get that? How do we get a cold audience? Well, this is an idea. I think it works really well. It's a really interesting way to get it is if you have media buying, use your media buying, right? Let your subject line be your ad. Whatever the base of the ad is. It could be image ad, it could be a short video, it could be, whatever it is. But the basis is essentially that's going to be my subject line or drive around the subject line. And then I like to make things really cheap. So I would target that to like a Facebook post that would represent the subject of my email. And then you could even create a CTA there. So you're essentially
for click or impression ads.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm optimizing on clicks. And what is generating the most clicks for me?
Yeah.
Oh man, this is
Not
getting
buys,
a lot of clicks.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
and I'm
brilliant.
like, I get a bunch of clicks to the learn more section.
Yeah.
Or it could be to a blog. But and now you can optimize on it. I did have a client that did this and they actually optimized on buys too. And they're like, we think this made it even better. So, I mean, you can do that, but you don't have to. It's all up to you. If you want to make it even cheaper and quicker, get a good pulse check. If you don't have that, it's a fantastic way to do it.
It's a great way to kind of force test some things before you bring it to, say, a paid drop.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Or do something like that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, just easy ways to kind of prove some stuff out that you could control, I think is really valuable. So with that, I feel like we could probably talk about testing forever.
It's fun.
But we do eventually have to end.
Womp.
And like I said, got to go get some eggnog, take a nap, get ready for Christmas time. I think this is going to be dropping very, very close. So before we go, Thomas, is there any holiday messages you'd like to say to the affiliate audience? Just to wish them a happy Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, holiday period, Christmas. What are another holidays around this time that we'd Festivus, whatever they might be celebrating?
I would say it's been a hard year for a lot of people, right? Like just business wise, if things are down, emails down, CPMs are up, ads are harder to make work. It's so I better just say people are winning though, right? People are having good business years. So be looking to your friends and colleagues, like, hey, who is doing well? What are they doing differently than me? Like, what can I model from that? And ultimately, split testing is one of those things that will get you. It's one of those. It's like working out. right? If you can keep working out, you're going to get results over time. If you can keep dieting, you're going to get results over time. Same thing with split testing. You keep iterating, you keep building that data chain, you're going to get some big wins over time. And so I'd just say, keep focused on the process, that operational split testing part I really believe in. And yeah, it's more just the happy holidays. Hug a loved one. Wow. I don't know why I stuck with hug a.
I think from now on, I'm just going to say hug a.
Hug
Hug a.
Yeah, hug a loved one.
That's your new tagline. That's way better than happy scaling. Hug a.
Yeah. I'd say slow down a little bit through the holidays if you can and enjoy until the surge of Q1. Yeah.
Yes, RQ5, right, or whatever we want to call that. No, that's awesome. And it's similar to echo what Thomas said. I know there's been a lot of people struggling out there. There's also been people who have a lot of great years. I'm actually going to go outside the business stuff. I just want to say, as we get these times, it's easy to think about the past. It's also easy to concern yourself with the future. But I would challenge each of you through these holiday seasons as we eat food that maybe is comforting and not healthy. We spend time with family or loved ones, or maybe just people we're required to spend time with. It's easy to get ourselves removed from what's happening right now. Stop, pause, and just be present. Challenge yourself for the rest of the year to try and live within the moments, absorb them for whatever they are, because there's always good and there's always bad in every single moment. It just depends on what you make of it. But regardless, be present for it, absorb all of it, and I just feel like you're going to have an amazing time no matter where you are, if you could just do a little bit more of that. So with that, we love all of you out there. We're so grateful to be with you on this holiday period and have conversations and snuggle our ClickBank pillows and enjoy these times together. So please rate, review, subscribe so we can keep showing up, keep delivering for you guys. And Thomas and I talk with pillows no matter what. So it's nice when there's a video here doing it, make it more formal. So with that, what do we tell the people, Thomas?
Happy holidays and happy scaling.
Oh, that's really good. I love the seasonal play there. And until next time, guys, be safe out there.